So, imposter syndrome is a very common psychological pattern that college students experience. And like, even if you haven't heard of the term before, I'm pretty sure that some of you might have experienced, this feeling. So basically, like, imposter syndrome, like what it kind of means is that you have this constant fear or this constant worry that you're inadequate or like you're undeserving of the things you achieve, like regardless of how consistent your track record of success has been. And I think that sucks, and like I've really given into this feeling like multiple times across like my college life. And I think with time, you learn to deal with this feeling after speaking to a lot of people. And I have 3 tips for you once again on how you can really deal with this horrible feeling of imposter syndrome basically. And I'd like to like confirm that there is no direct link from imposter syndrome to mental health issues like depression or anxiety, so you don't there isn't like much to worry about on that end. But I think it's still a very like uneasy feeling to like kind of be around, so I think these things might help. So tip number 1 is understanding that imposter syndrome is a cognitive bias. And what I mean by that is, your field, your respective field, let's take in my case like computer science, right? Like this field is massive, and let's say like economics or physics or whatever it is, all these fields, they're all massive fields. And realistically, the stuff you're going to know about this field are very minimal. At least 99% of the people watching this video, you're going to know this little bit, this small percentage from this field, right? That is very well, like that's just like the foundation of like imposter syndrome, like not knowing enough, right? And as soon as you start college, like you will feel like, okay, this is like a massive field, and you realize that it's a massive field, and like you automatically just feel like you're in like the low end of the food chain, and like you don't feel good already as soon as you take your first class, for some people at least. And then like the worst part about this is that the more you get to know, the worse you feel, because you will realize that there's endless amount of things to know. And that sounds like, and I've read this in one of my software engineering interview prep documents too, like and that also says that it's counterintuitive how that works, because like you get to know more about something and you feel worse about how good you are in the respective field, right? So, and that's the very tricky part about imposter syndrome, because like you realize, like if in my case, like in CS, like I realize, okay, if I learn something like software development, I realize, okay, there's something like machine learning or data science, and then I dabble onto data science, and there are different segments of data science that I'm not aware of. And the worst part is like when you're in college and when you meet a lot of people, there might be people who talk about like these respective very like high end, very hyped up topics, right? So if you picture it like a Venn diagram, you feel like you know this much, and there's someone who knows more than you. Like in my case, let's just pick 2 random people. Let's just come up with 2 random names. There's a boy called Isuru and there's a girl called Ashani. So, and I'm Manit, obviously. And I think that Manit only knows this much, and I think, okay, Isuru knows this much, and then I also think that Ashani knows more than both of us together. And that's kind of like the foundation of this entire thing. But the reality of the situation is, like, once again, if you take the Venn diagram analogy, I know a certain amount of things, Isuru might know a certain amount of things, and Ashani might know a certain amount of things. And when you bring all those things close together, you realize that there might be things that I know that Isuru knows, like that we commonly share. There might be things that Isuru and Ashani might commonly share. There are things that Ashani and I might commonly share, and there are things that the 3 of us might commonly share. But the thing is, there are things that, and that's a reality of the situation. But the important part to note from that is there are things that are unique to you. There are things that, in this case, there are things that are unique to me. There are things that are unique to Isuru, and there are things that are unique to Ashani. There are things that make you unique. There are your strengths and your pillars of like, you know, knowledge and like the things that you're aware of that make you like stand out. And even though that sounds cliche, it is true. And the more you realize it, the more you internalize that, the easier it is to deal with this feeling where like, you know, you think you know absolutely nothing and like everyone else knows, you know, like everything basically. There are variations of knowledge that like respective human beings have. There are like sometimes you might be like a specialist, like another person might be a generalist, but when you're a specialist, you know more about like a specific field. When you're a generalist, you know more like you're more aware of the general setting of subjects. So keep that in mind whenever you kind of have that feeling. And I think it's easier to make sense of why you're feeling this way. So tip number 2 is that I think you should talk to people about it. You should talk to people about your imposter syndrome. Even if you don't know, even if you don't want to mention the term, you can just say that, you know, you're not feeling inadequate, and regardless of what your wins are, regardless of how great you're supposedly doing, you feel like you're not, you know, you don't belong here, or like, you know, you don't belong in the arena of success like that you're put into. And at least for me, when I started doing that, I realized how extremely common this problem is. And it didn't make any sense to me why anyone else should feel that way. But then I realized, why should I feel that way in the first place, right? Like, because the best part is like when you speak to like people that you're inspired by, like, you know, your manager or like your mentor. In my case, like I spoke to Imran, Zaf, Tony about like college, about like how I was feeling. Like, you know, I don't think, you know, the internship that I got like right out first year was like valid. Like I felt like I was a fraud, and I was concentrating them, and they told me that every win a lot of wins that they've had, they felt the same way, that they felt very uneasy with, you know, how they were going about things. Especially when I spoke to like Imran about like how, you know, and I think he's so impressive. Like he's created things that I would literally never imagine of creating. And he told me that like it's a feeling that he had to like deal with throughout campus. Like no matter how, like, you know, how, regardless of how many hackathons he's won, it's like till the end of his university career, he had to like deal with that feeling. And he constantly like advised me not to like, you know, give in to this kind of imposter syndrome. And even when I spoke to like my manager, Mike Merkovic, what he kind of told me is like he never mentioned like the term imposter syndrome, but like I was speaking to him about like presentations, because like I was very like I didn't feel good enough when I was right after I kind of presented something. But he told me, you know, like that presentation was very professional, like especially at your stage of your career. And he said, you know, the way you get better at these things is just by constantly doing them. And he said, you know, how he got better with time, and how he kind of, you know, kind of polished up his skills with time, and that's how he is as good as he is right now. So to kind of know their origin stories, and to know that like, you know, they've surpassed all of these kind of feelings, these feelings of being inadequate, not good, and all of that, and like just, you know, beating all of that and coming to the stages that they have right now, it really inspired me, because like it gave me hope that I can kind of get rid of this feeling at some point in time, and kind of like focus on being better and like doing my best work. And the best part is I read about this, and I realized that Albert Einstein had this problem, and that just like really threw me off, because like why would he have like a problem about his achievements? He's one of the greatest human beings that had ever lived, like ever. and this man had a problem with like, or like at least like he had like an issue with kind of like coming to terms with his own success. And like then I was like, okay, this does not like make sense. Like, you know, I need to, you know, be proud of like what I'm achieving, and, you know, like get better at what I'm get better than how I was like the day before. And kind of jumping on that, tip number 3 is own your achievements. And I think I preached this, or like at least spoken about this before, about how important it is to kind of understand that, you know, your wins, regardless of how big or small it is, they matter. They truly, truly matter. And is like, you know, I know like a lot of people was gonna say like, okay, you know, like he or she or whoever is like really like proud or like, you know, insanely unnecessarily like, you know, posting their achievements on Instagram or like whatever way you celebrate, like someone's gonna say something about it, and that's okay. That's really okay, because I think it's better to be proud of your achievements than be extremely humble and have like problems with coming to terms with your own achievements, right? So be proud of every single little win you have in college. It's extremely important. Share it with your friends. If it helps, share it on social media, share your journey on social media, or like whatever helps you like really own your own achievements and just like be proud of them and just look back and say, okay, I've done this. Like whenever you feel bad, to say I got this far. To me, like when I was at work, like I felt horrible because like I was just starting out and like I was so confused and everything was very overwhelming. And I had this picture of like this hackathon win that I had, and that's how I actually got to the company. I was like, yo, like you won like you basically got a chance to secure a career 4 months into university, and that's not a story that literally everyone in the world could say, right? So own it, and like just realize that you were put in this place and you were chosen out of all these applicants to like, you know, get something done. So like, you know, put your head in the game and just like, you know, just get better, and you know, just trust the process, as I always say, you know. So yeah, like I think it's important like to, you know, count your wins, be proud of your wins, and just focus on what you're learning and what you're gaining with time, instead of saying, like for example, if you're doing a question, think about what you learned from that question instead of saying, oh, I couldn't do this question, I absolutely don't know, what if this comes later, like, you know, I'm not prepared for this exam, like whatever it is. Like that's not how you should kind of interpret like your story or like your journey, right? Like you need to think, okay, I know something more than I like whatever I knew yesterday. And the more you think about everything like that, the better you get, and the more peaceful you feel about like your university journey. Always remember that at the end of the day, the end goal is not the kind of point. You need to enjoy the process of being better and just growing every single day as a person and a professional. So my duty as a college student, or like I think at least the responsibility I've taken on my own, is to like make this process a much more fun and a much more peaceful process. And I just want you to know that I think you matter, your achievements matter, your wins matter. And if you ever want to talk to someone about like anything that goes to college, I'm ready to volunteer, and I'm very, very sure that your social circle is ready to volunteer to listen to your story and listen to your journey. Never doubt like the kindness that some people have in their hearts, regardless of how dusty the world could be. But yeah, that's it from me, and I hope this helped. I really do.